So the hardest part of getting started is oftentimes just getting started. I know that it can be overwhelming and you've tried all these different things in the past and you've went and you've cleaned out your pantry and you've bought all the good food and the healthy food and it lasts until the healthy food's gone and then you're like done with it, right? How many times have you done that? I know for years I went through that vicious cycle. And since I started implementing the changes that I'm going to tell you about today, I have been able to stay on a good track for the last 5 years. And even though there's been some highs and lows through the process, I still always go back to where I need to be. And that is with a low carb lifestyle and with keto nat. So these are going to be tips that you can implement whether you're using exogenous ketones or not. You're going to be able to implement these tips and start making changes right away today. Okay. So my number one rule is start right now. Don't wait for Monday. Don't wait for the first day of the new month. Don't wait for the first day of the new year. Just start right now. There's never going to be a perfect time to get started. So why not just start now? Okay. Where I recommend starting is with awareness. So being aware of what you want to stay away from, what you want to have more of is going to be a huge, huge tool in helping you make better choices and helping keep your mind right. When it comes to going and grabbing for food, you're going to say, oh, wait a minute, that's not the best option. Let me go with this. So I have a rule. It's called the 5 whites. And these are the 5 whites that we want to stay away from. And the 5 whites are bread, rice, pasta, potato, and sugar. Okay, those are the things that we want to stay away from as much as possible. Okay, I know there's going to be times where you go to Olive Garden and they bring out the delicious breadsticks and those are hard to resist. So give yourself grace because that's what's going to help you stay the journey. If you're too strict on yourself, chances are you're going to fall all the way off the wagon and it's going to take you a while to get back on. So give yourself grace in the process. Remember the 5 whites: bread, rice, pasta, potato, and sugar, and do your best to make the necessary swaps to keep those things out of your diet. A few of the things that I like to make swaps for are, instead of your bread, you can use things like lettuce wraps. You can even use tortillas. Even though tortillas do have, about a 30-gram carb count or so, it's still going to be better than using a big bun or using large pieces of bread, sub rolls, things like that. So lettuce wrap is going to be the preferred, but if you need to do something like a tortilla, they make a low carb tortilla. It's called Carb Balance, and those are a good choice as well for your swaps with bread. For your rice, you can use things like cauliflower. A lot of people use cauliflower as a swap for rice. So get your cauliflower. They have it, you can buy it now very conveniently already, like riced cauliflower. It's easy to do. And that can be a good swap for that. Swap for your potato oftentimes is also going to be something like cauliflower is a very, very common swap. But there are also some very good other swaps out there as well. And I can point you to a resource to help you access some of those food list and swap ideas. Your sugar. So there are now great healthy sugar substitutes out there. You want to make sure that you're using one that is actually good for you and can be absorbed into your bloodstream, not something that's just going to go in and be, chemical and all that stuff. So some of the ones I recommend are, you can use Swerve. That's a really good one. You can use monk fruit. And I'll also share a list with you of some of the other sweeteners that are actually healthy alternatives for your sweeteners. So those are some of the tips that you can use as far as swaps go. Now, another thing that I recommend is intermittent fasting. So there's a ton of benefits to intermittent fasting. So intermittent fasting is a 12 to 16 hour fasting window. Most people will do that from the last meal that they have at night into their lunch meal. So you could do your last dinner meal and then 12 to 16 hours later is when you would have your next meal. So that would be usually during your sleeping window. I know over the years we've been told, eat breakfast, don't eat breakfast, eat breakfast, don't eat breakfast is most important of the day. It's not the most important meal of the day. So you can do it, you can do your fasting window in the morning. You don't have to have breakfast. Make sure you stay hydrated. If you're using keto nat, you can have it in that window because it is fasting friendly. So it'll keep you in that fasted state. And then you can have your first meal around lunchtime. Another thing is don't eat when you're you're not hungry. So if you're not hungry, you don't have to eat around the clock. I know we've been told over the years, eat 6 meals a day, eat 6 times a day, eat 8 times a day. You don't have to do that. You don't have to eat around the clock. I want you to think back to our ancestors, right? Before the standard American diet, before we started consuming 400 times the amount of sugar than we once consumed 100 years ago, our ancestors ate during feast or famine. There was a lot of fasting that went on, and they were actually a lot healthier than we are today. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Fasting is great. Fasting is very, very beneficial for a lot of different reasons. Okay, another thing is if you have a bad day and you fall off track, it's okay. All right, you don't have to take a whole hiatus and be off track for a whole month. Tomorrow's a new day. Start back tomorrow. Again, give yourself grace. Start the next day fresh and just start back to what you know. Incorporate your intermittent fasting, stay away from your 5 whites. And I want to talk to you about hydration. So hydration is super, super important. 75% of Americans, if not more, are walking around severely dehydrated. I was one of those people for many, many, many years. I literally told myself I didn't have time to take bathroom breaks throughout the day. And the reality is I didn't, but how crazy is that I didn't make that time, right? It's so important. And if we don't do that, we're going to pay for it later when our kidneys are wrecked. So drink water. You have to do it. Figure it out. I know it's hard based on different careers. If you're a teacher, can't leave your classroom. Like I know all of those things, but the reality is your body has to function a certain way and you have to be able to go to the restroom throughout the day. So drink lots of water. Aim for half your body weight in ounces of water. That's a great thing to aim for. Even if you don't reach that, it's still going to give you a great goal to aim for. And if you're someone who works out or you work outside and you sweat a lot, then you want to just even do more water than that. Okay. Another thing is a lot of our water is reverse osmosis. So the minerals are removed out of it, and minerals are very, very important for our body. So I do recommend that you use either an electrolyte or a pink Himalayan salt. I have an electrolyte I can recommend. It's called Mitoplex, and it's a very, very awesome electrolyte. So I can give you a link to access that and to get that. There's flavored and non-flavored, but it's one of my most amazing products. It's for rapid hydration. And then if you don't have the electrolytes on hand, you can start right away with some pink Himalayan salt. You can either take a pinch of it in your hand and just take it by mouth and follow it with some water, or some people actually make salt shooters out of it where they put the pink Himalayan salt in a little like shot glass or small glass and just mix it with some water and down it. But you can do that a couple times a day. Start your day with it. And surprisingly, you're going to feel the increase in energy when you do that. Okay. And while we're talking about salt, go ahead and get rid of that standard salt, the idolized salt that you've used forever and ever and ever. Get rid of it. It's bad for us. It's mostly chemicals. Go ahead and replace that with your pink Himalayan salt. It's a much better option for you to use. It has like 86 different minerals in it. So it's actually good for you versus bad for you. So that's a recommendation that I strongly suggest. Okay, so those are a couple of my tips for just getting started. I don't want to throw too much at you and overwhelm you, but I hope that you will take this into consideration and that you will start today making these changes. Start right now. Don't wait for a new day, a new year, a new month. Reach out if you have any questions at all. You can email me. My email address is Cameron@flketo.com. You can also find some of my snack lists and some of the lists that I referenced here in this video at flketo.com. That's FL as in Florida, keto.com. You can find those resources there that will help support your journey. So I'm rooting for you. You got this. I am believing that when you start this time, it's going to be a lifestyle change, and you will look back and say, I'm so glad I got started. I'm so glad I gave myself grace. I'm so glad that I took those baby steps and celebrated every single part of the journey, because that's what it's all about, is celebrating your progress as you go. Don't be too hard on yourself. You took the right decision just by watching this video and seeing where to begin, and hopefully you took some notes. So if not, you can re-access this video at any time. So again, I'm Cameron Moss, and I am here to support you in any way I can. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.